College Ras or police? What's the most memorable event you've had with college freshmen? International kid went to the fish market. They bought live crabs and lobsters, then proceeded to keep them in the fridge drawer alive for days. Safe to say the vegetarians and they vegans refused to use the fridge, and it caused so much grief and drama. Raraloo a long time ago. Group of freshmen in a 4-man suite got permission for a pet somehow from the housing office. They didn't specify it was a ducking pig. The smell was unbelievable. That lasted a couple of weeks until the dean of students finally gave me and the housing office the power to threaten expulsion. RA and campus M's here. I have had many encounters with drunk etc. freshmen. But I have a couple I will never forget. One of them was during my first year as enroll living on the 4th floor of my building. I woke up to knocking on my door at around 3 AM coupled with the screaming of "there's people having sex in my bed." Alright, I guess I better not ignore this one. So I head out and see this freshman who reeks of alcohol and stumble towards his room. Plot twist, he doesn't live there and the two students half clothed open the door. I send him off and go back to bed to be woken up again 15 minutes later by more knocking. Guess who is back? In one hand he has a water bottle and in the other he has a trimmer in the other hand. Now I'm 6'4" and he's pretty tiny, so it did not end well when he tried to shave my beard. Ended up tossing him back in his room onto his bed and finally got to go to bed. TLDR, drunk non-resident walked into room with residents having sex. Told him to leave. He came back with a vengeance to shave my beard. Put him to sleep. I have two really memorable RA experiences, Purdue late 90s. The first is a really terrible one. I was in RA at the same time as Jay Severson. Jay was shot and killed by a resident that was a big drug dealer. It shook Purdue heavily. But especially the RA, who were actually called counselors, community. The other. Me specific. One was a freshman who had a father that was super hard on him. One night I came back to the dorm and he's in the hall with a bottle of Jack. Just hammered. Purdue dorms are dry. But I told him just get rid of it and go to bed. 5 minutes later he walks to my room with the bottle and I told him I have to write this up now. I never wrote people up. He then just breaks down. Snot tears break down. He was planning to kill himself that night, so I spent the next 2 hours talking to him and convinced him to see someone professional the next morning. He passed out in my room and in the morning he called a real professional and began therapy. I didn't write him up for alcohol. A girl delivered a baby in her dorm room and claimed she didn't know she was pregnant. To make matters worse, it was a Catholic all-girls school and the baby was delivered by the biology teacher who was a nun. Kid got kicked out of his fraternity and had to move into campus housing. A few weeks later he stunk up the whole hall because he was smoking a bong in his room. I wasn't a hardus. So I usually just told them how obvious it was. And to do it somewhere else so they don't get caught by someone who cared more than me. Well, when I went in, weed up, coke, and alcohol. Dude was obviously running an operation out of his dorm. So we had to call the cops and now I have the title for biggest drug bust in university history. Not an RA or a cop. But I went home one weekend and came back while my roommate was out. I had been back for 15 minutes or so when Myra knocked on my door. I opened it up and saw her staring a hole through me and finally said, "We need to talk about what happened this weekend." I asked, "WTF are you talking about?" She said, "Last night was unacceptable and if it happens again we'll press charges." I was pretty confused and repeated, "What the duck are you talking about? I have been gone all weekend." My roommate apparently got drunk. Poorly, tried to sneak in a girl after opposite 6 visiting hours were over, 2 AM, and when the person at the front desk person caught him, knocked over a bunch of stuff, poured a bottle of Gatorade on the floor and told the girl, "Run and don't look back." I laughed but the RA didn't see the humor. Okay, so I was only in RA for 1 semester. But my top 2 stories are: one time 3 of my residents were in the elevator and 2 of them decided to jump and set off the sensors. So they were trapped in the elevator. I was on duty so I had to deal with it. I didn't know what to do so I called the hall director on duty who called the repairman. The repairman said he would be there in an hour. So I had to be there waiting, keeping an eye on the situation. So me and some friends of the people stuck grabbed lawn chairs, snack and filled our Yeti cups and tailgated the event. When the hall director on duty showed up, she saw we had it handled and were enjoying ourselves, so she joined the fun and started singing hello from the other side to the kids in the elevator. The other memorable event was, one night a couple of my residents bought ghost peppers to try and see who could handle the heat. Well, one kid who was Thai said, "My food is way spicier than this." Eats one whole and starts another when the heat sets in. We had ranch and tortillas ready for people to eat to cool down. After everyone was done eating, me included, we are just hanging out in the lounge. The kid who had been cutting up the peppers went to bed before us, and his room is right next to the lounge. About 5 minutes after he went to bed, we hear him screaming. Apparently he didn't wash his hands and had started masturbating. He was in a lot of pain. So we threw him a bottle of ranch and left the room so he could apply it to his area. Then the rest of us washed our hands very thoroughly. Not an ra. But freshman year I lived in the second floor of the dorms, and my 3 roommates decided to start playing soccer in the hallways. I didn't know they were playing soccer until I got back from the library around 11:50 p.m. I come up the stairs. All my roommates were lined up against the wall, and the ra points at me and says, "Oh. Since you're here, you're getting written up." I told her I came from the library, I was wearing my backpack and had 2 textbooks in my arm. She didn't buy it and got written up. Screw you, Martha. Edit. I had to attend a beating after I got written up, and after 3 minutes, I was off the hook. My other 3 roommates were not so lucky. Not an ra, but a first-hand witness. My freshman year of college I lived in a building with super long hallways and went to school in central PA. The 2 days that we were affected by Hurricane Sandy, 2012 I think. And by affected I mean severe rain and higher than normal winds. Classes were cancelled and we were told not to leave the dorms unless it was an emergency. So what happens when 400 plus bored college kids are forced to stay indoors? Start a multi-floor jousting tournament. Each contestant had to sit on a skateboard and try to knock their opponent off their skateboard while being pushed at pretty decent speeds. Was definitely one of the best unofficial freshman icebreakers I've participated in. Sadly got busted not too long after people started yelling war cries down the hallways. Ra here. Typical story of a freshman girl getting way too drunk. And I escorted her to the hospital with the ambulance. The girl is squirming all over the place, so they ask me to come back in the room to watch her while we wait for the PA on duty. PA finally comes in. The girl is still squirming all over the bed, unresponsive to anything the PA is telling her. Finally, the PA goes to put the needle for the IV in and warns the girl of a slight painful poke. The girl abruptly stops her squirming, looks the PA dead in the eye, and yells, "Do it, you won't." I couldn't contain my laughter at this moment. I really tried my best. Campus security. Had a freshman girl scream at me that I was a white supremacist, racist, using police brutality, among some other expletives. Apparently, politely asking someone to keep their voice down on the phone at 3 AM on a weeknight is racist. Yes. She happened to be black. No. I'm not a goddamned racist. You're on the first floor. And the noise complaint came from a resident on the second floor. Not an ra or a cop. Last year my school decided to set up a beehive research setup on a recently closed porch to one of the dining halls. This setup wasn't protected at all from stupid students. One night, a few smart people decided to go up to the beehives, take one, and throw it into a nearby dorm's elevator. They then proceeded to press every button so that the elevator would stop on every floor in the building. Whole damn building had to be evacuated. Said people were expelled. I'll give you 3. We had a bamboo forest near campus. I was on duty once when 2 dudes dragged an entire tree into the main lounge and up the stairs. I asked them WTF. I asked these 2 guys WTF a lot, to be fair, and they said they were making rafts. I wrote it up, of course. But it wasn't easy to figure out what to write up. I settled on destruction of campus property since I'm pretty sure you can't swipe an entire bamboo tree. Dude on my floor was having hallway earthquake shaking top volume grunting loud 6. Really loud. And it was kinda late. And I'm just sitting there playing my video games waiting for it to be over, hoping that I don't have to go knock on his door because, well, WTF do I want to do that for? I mean, it's a noise violation of course, but I'm hoping everybody can just let it go. Anyways, I get a phone call. If someone is actually complaining about it, I've gotta go knock. So I pick up the phone with trepidation, and a floormat decides to share with me how much he's enjoying the 6 noises. Yeah. I don't care if you're my resident. This conversation is over. Click. Last one. This is the first guy again. I'm doing end of the year room inspections. I expect this to go badly. Mr. Bamboo has destroyed thousands of dollars in campus property this year. He shattered a floor-length window in the main lounge and broke every damned light on the 3rd floor while drunk. Every one. So I go in and his room is surprisingly neat and undestroyed. Except his desk. It looks like a black version of Slimer masturbated all over it. I ask him what on God's green earth is coating his desk. Goo. He would not elaborate. I marked the desk down as destroyed. I sure as hell wasn't cleaning it. Obligatory not in rural police. But I've got some interesting run-ins with both. So freshman year. My buddy has an old computer monitor we need to get rid of. So naturally we go out to the country and shoot the shit out of it. Well, as we were leaving his uncle's land, we see this old toilet just sitting in a shed on its side. And thought it'd make a great addition to our dorm room. For a few months, the throne was a place of honor during our regular Halo 3 sessions. Eventually, though, it needed to go. And we decided to dispatch it the same way as the monitor. Well, on our way out to the parking lot, campus police stops us at the curb before we can load it. All they saw were 4 idiots carrying a toilet out of the dorms. And assumed the worst. We were eventually cleared to carry on. But not until they went and physically checked to make sure our room still had a toilet. About a month later we were playing Halo 3. Swearing up a storm and casually tossing death threats across the room at one another, as one does, when we get a visit from campus police again. Buddy answers the door. Lo and behold, to see the same cop who stopped us with the toilet. "Oh. It's you again," the cop says. Apparently someone heard us shout, "I'm gonna duck in mare near you," and was slightly concerned. I was once notified by one of my residents that her mattress had been misplaced and she wanted to know if she would be charged for it or if she was good. I told her she would most certainly be charged for it, and then, mysteriously, the mattress reappeared the week before summer closing. I heard through the paper-thin door of her room later that it had been at a frat house for a while, and I dread the thought of what happened to it. Kid from a vegan family, who was already thin, began to look worryingly thin. It turned out he wasn't eating because he wasn't sure what he could eat and was basically eating nothing. In the end he dropped out and he went back to his family in the middle of nowhere. Kind of sad actually. Poor kid. I went to a small liberal arts school in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, in mountains and forest. You could store your hunting rifle or bow at the police station. And, during certain times of the year, hunt on the larger 13,000-acre campus. One of the infamous boys' dorms layout was 2 doubles connected by a bathroom. I wasn't there for this dorm, but I heard about it in one of the larger meetings. Apparently, the head RA received a complaint because one guy's suitor had shot and held deer and hung it in the shower so he could skin and butcher it. Blood was everywhere. TLDR, boy shoots deer, skins and butchers it in communal sweet shower. Very first night on call by myself. Watching the news in my dorm room. See my resident's mugshot. The housing staff were unclear on the procedure of what to do when a resident is arrested for murder. I dated our RA, which was way against the rules, but it was on the sly. Anyhow, long story short, A friend on my floor tells me she's banging a prof. I tell my our girlfriend because I'm concerned and naive and all that, and she tells me a different girl on the floor is also banging that same prof and had just disclosed it to her a couple of days prior. In the end, I don't know how many frosh this prof must have been banging overall. But she did report him. And he wasn't teaching anymore at least. Last weekend of my senior year, I'm packing up everything to send home after graduation and get a call on my room phone. One of my residents was so drunk at a frat party that his friends brought him back to the dorm, but he stopped in the middle of a road and tried to punch cars as they drove past. Cops, not campus security. The town cops, picked him up and brought the all back to the dorm. I wasn't even mad he was that stupid. Just impressed. Another guy was so drunk he was running away from the RA on duty and jumped off the second floor balcony, breaking his leg pretty badly homecoming weekend that year. Got a duty call from a worried mom one Saturday afternoon. She hadn't heard from her 18-year-old daughter in a few days and wanted someone to check on her. Sure, I said. I go and knock on her door. She's there. Just studying. She promises to call her mom. Next day the student died. She got very sick. Called a friend. Went to the hospital. And was dead in a matter of hours. I wasn't the last person to see her alive. But I might have been the last to see her healthy. Years later. I can't shake the feeling that her mom had some sort of premonition.